and welcome to another episode of Why Press Play. My name is Juan Vilalobos Ramirez. I am a Spanish immortal who spent 2 months living in Spain trying to perfect my Spanish accent for this movie. The movie we're talking about today is The Highlander. Or just Highlander, I guess.
Just Highlander.
Just Highlander. No, this is not Sean Connery. Ed Salmon does it much better. This is Why Press Play. My name is Gordo, and I'm here once again with my brother, beard wearer, head shaver, lover, fighter, musician, novelist, writer, singer, dancer. What else? What else do you do?
I walk and I eat food and I do regular stuff.
He's a Phil Collins. Like
I can't play the drums.
Yeah. Neil Rochford, ladies and gentlemen.
How you doing, folks?
Welcome to the show, and again, Neil, thanks for joining us. This one is another reach back into the Rochford vault. Highlander. This is the movie that caused you, as a child, as I fondly remember, to perpetually have a sword.
Oh yeah,
on or about your person for I think the best part of 4 years.
This was the big one. I mean, like He-Man didn't do it.
No,
like the King Arthur movies didn't do it.
Yeah.
It was all about the Highlander.
And from about 3 until 7, you were like, yeah, I'm a dude that carries a sword. Seriously, like you wouldn't go anywhere without the sword. It was there, the different types. Every time anyone wanted to buy you a present, they were like, here's a sword. And I don't know why it didn't, evolve into that mall ninja shit.
Yeah,
of you like having fucking walls covered in
shurikens
swords
and stuff. Yeah, I was kind of lucky there.
Maybe like, we were preferred, like we'd spend money on drinking drugs instead of fucking swords. We were like out.
We get messed up and then go look at swords and they're deadly. It's a good thing I don't have one.
Look at the window of the sword shop. Look at them. But yeah, Highlander was part of our, I think, the fabric of our childhood. And for all the times we watched it, I still can't do a convincing Christopher Lambert impression.
He's a hard one to do.
It's so odd
because I think the Belgian accent is that, that little bit different. Like anyone can do a little French accent, there's no problem. But
you can do French because stereotypes. But like he has like
this weird in between.
Yeah, a little bit of everywhere. Born in Switzerland, Belgian, French, Flemish. Lived in America. Very, very odd accent.
Lots of different places.
Where are you from? What the fuck is wrong with your voice? Christopher Lambert. Christy Lambert.
Yeah.
So we're talking about The Highlander from 1986, directed by Russell Mulcahy. One of a trilogy of movies, then followed by a series of TV shows starring Adrian Paul as Duncan McLeod, Conor McLeod's cousin, because they couldn't afford Christy Lambert for
a series.
for the TV series. He was off doing other stuff, and a huge part of loads of people's childhoods, and it followed up by 2 steaming piles of shite as sequels. And there's excuses were made all throughout history for this, and this is one of them. Like I've given out about sequels before, I've given out about reboots before. This is one reboot that I wouldn't mind seeing, getting like all the old stuff except for the first movie, everything just retconned, disappeared, and go either with a prequel or a new sequel, or not a remake, because like the story as is great, but there's so many different options. And as we go through the movie and talk about the characters, talk about the actors, and the hugely rich and varied and full lore behind this that was, I think, barely skimmed over in this first movie. And then when they got the second movie chance, the sequels 2 and 3, they were just like, it just fucking blew their load and fucked
they said as well, like, because when they shot the second one in Argentina and there were so many cuts and edits because the government collapsed or whatever.
Inflation went crazy. The government were defunct pretty much, and then all the producers and all the workers and the Teamsters, like there's nothing worse than South American Teamsters. Tell you. It's just it was so upsetting. And I talked about it as well on another podcast called Reviewables, which Ed Salmon and Keane McGarrigle produced for the Head Stuff Network, and it's a great show, but like they just review just random shit. But I went in going, fuck sequels, man, especially Highlander 2. And yeah, I have a place in my heart for Highlander, and kind of like all the women or men that you've had like awful sex with before you meet the love of your life. You know they exist, but you choose to like not think about them, or just like partially forget them. You're like, oh yeah, in a moment of weakness you might think about them and go, oh fuck, that happened. Shit. Fuck's sake, they're aliens from another planet who has entered time. So this is Why Press Play. We talk about movies, we talk about TV shows, we talk about computer games. This episode is all about Highlander, and we try and get a sense of what the movie is about, if you haven't seen it, or if you have seen it, to say, hey, go back and watch that. Don't forget that there's good movies out there. Don't get stuck watching all the fucking Transformers or all the Fast and the Furious franchise and go, I hate films now. I want to go outside in the sun. You probably should do that too, but we're trying to dig through the old bargain bin of movies of old that you may have skipped over, you may have missed, or with the barrage, the deluge of digital media that's been smashed into our face from the likes of Netflix, Hulu, Amazon. You could browse Netflix for a whole episode's worth of the Highlander TV show, looking for something to watch, when you can just go to the Highlander TV show and fucking press and watch. Do you know how often have you gotten a row with your bird, when you're sitting there and she's like, no, I don't want to watch that, no, I don't like that, no, I'm not in the mood for that. You're like, fucking this is, maybe you can listen to this with your partner and decide, like, if you're not able to convince her to watch the Highlander, put this show, like, tie her to a chair, put this show on, put the headphones on her head, and go like, listen to these boys convincing you that science fiction is just a way to tell a story using science fiction as the medium. It's a story about love and someone becoming a man, and it's fucking character. She's like, I don't like science fiction. Fucking listen to it. Like, this is the essence of the show. I said in our intro for our teaser episode, or like the kind of the I want to provide a service with the show, and the kind of thing that I'm thinking of is like that moment where you come home from a night on the beer and you have a bag of chips under your arm and maybe a burger or a kebab, and you're a bit pissed, and you come home and you turn on the telly for something to watch while you're having your your fucking stomach cement when you're asleep, just to soak up all the glue. You do heart glue to soak up all the drink so you don't fucking die in the morning. And you turn on the telly and there's like a film has just started on TV, and they're not talking like pre-Sky now, pre-cable, where it's just terrestrial TV. You turn it on, there's a film, and you're like, this film, and then this film, and you watch it, and it possibly could be the greatest film you've ever seen. That's what I'm trying to capture with this podcast, to try and find those movies and go, watch this shit. Highlander is one of them. If you haven't watched it, if you're a millennial, or if you're under the age of 20 and you're like, oh, that looks old and shit, and like Queen is in it and it's like shit special effects and it's like some weird Belgian guy, fucking put it on, man. Change your life. If you want to get in contact with the show, hit us up on the website whypressplay.com. We're on all sorts of social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. We have a Reddit r/whypressplay. We have a Discord server. Discord is an app where you can chat and talk in text or in voice with the fans of this show and fans of movies and TV and computer games. You all get on there and have the chats and give each other suggestions and talk about stuff. And we got into Discord through Patreon, and they have a partnership now. So Patreon is a crowdfunding service where you can support the show by giving money, and you get stuff back, like behind the scenes footage, early access to the different shows, you get outtakes, you get special little treatments, like you were a good boy and you got an A1 in your test, and this is like a monthly treat. We also stream on PlayStation and on Steam, so if you want to get in on that, you have to be a Patreon subscriber, and then we'll add your gamer tag and you can play along with us. And we stream all that stuff on Twitch, so you can watch us on Twitch, or you can go and watch them afterwards on YouTube and VidMe. And leave us if you like the show, you leave us a review on iTunes. They seem to like it. We would appreciate it. And it doesn't have to be long or a big paragraph, but just go, yeah, these guys are not shit.
That's the standard. It's just not shit. 4 stars. It's no Kermode and Mayo, or you know what I mean. We're trying to rekindle the love for these old movies, and we're coming from a VHS house where our dad would use Video Plus to record movies off the telly in long play on 240-minute tapes, and then put sellotape over the little hole so that we could tape over shit ones. So yeah, it's
This is a classic, man. It's a classic. So Highlander, take us through Highlander. On My Press Play, we like to do a thing called 60 seconds, no spoilers. And we're going to go through the whole movie, hopefully in 60 seconds, with Neil Rochford, where he can describe hopefully from memory, what happens in the movie and why it's so awesome. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Alright, we start off in Madison Square Gardens at a wrestling match. We zoom in on our protagonist Conor McLeod, who's already a bit strange. You can see by the way he's the only quiet one in the whole screaming audience. This leads to a weird ass sword fight in the parking lot, where the guy cuts off the other, where our protagonist Conor McLeod cuts off the other guy's head, and then this weird blue fucking lightning comes out of his body and blows everything up in the place except for Conor McLeod, and then he has to run off. And then we flash back to a couple of 100 years ago with the same guy coming out of a castle in what we assume to be Scotland by the way the guys are talking. So it's obviously the same guy that's a couple of 100 years old. Oh man, this is really hard. So then he flips back to the present day, and he gets arrested by the police for the murder of this
5
guy.
5 seconds left.
And yeah,
2,
I'm not going to make it.
1. It's fucking. You got like 5 minutes into the film.
Yeah,
there,
I got stuck on the intro.
It's tough. Yeah, I'm trying to cultivate that. Like, you've probably heard a couple of them, and some of them haven't been like spot on. It's fucking hard to do.
It is.
If I was doing that, I'd be like, this guy, and he gets in a sword fight, gets his head cut off, and he turns into an immortal, and he does this thing. So the whole premise of the movie is that this guy Conor McLeod, played by Christy Lambert. That's how you'd say it if he was Irish, by the way. If any Americans listening, Christopher Lambert. He's an immortal. He's been alive for 400 years. We find out very early on in the movie, and he is at a wrestling match, and he feels what we now know after watching the movie to be what's called the quickening, which is a thing that immortals get when they're near each other. It's like they're cycling together, just and
crampy.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so crampy. There must be another one here. I'm just feeling just washed out. Oh my god, so many immortals. Just so many immortals around here.
Oh my god, there should be just like only one.
Yeah, there should be one. So I don't feel like this anymore. Can I get some ice cream or something just to get rid of this quickening? So Christy Lambert is like a swordsman. He's a Scottish warrior who comes from the Clan McLeod, who seems to not have a Scottish accent at all, even from the very outset. And he fights this guy underground in a car park, and he chops his head off. And this is the first time we was like, what the fuck? And there's this old ass dude, called Facile.
So we don't know even like from the start
going on. We're just like
who the bad guy is.
Yeah, it's just some cunt having a fucking sword fight in the basement of the Madison Square Gardens, right? And he chops his head off. And your man starts floating, and all blue light and shit comes out. All the cars blow up, and then Christopher Lambert comes. He has an orgasm.
Basically.
He's like, oh, that was nice. Whatever way he talks. That was nice. Like, was it good for you, Facile? Or whatever. I can't do Christopher Lambert so hard.
Facile.
Yeah, Facile. You've come. But this fucking old guy is doing like backflips and all in this underground car park. You're like, what the fuck is going on? Apparently that's the stunt coordinator.
Yeah, I found out about that later. This actually
he's
him
the guy
doing
in the movie who coordinates all the stunts. He's like, look, rather than paying for some lad to do a lot of backflips, I can just do them. Do you want me to just do them? And it's like, as a body double, he's like, no, I'm going to be the guy as well. He's like, dude, your face looks fucked up. It looks like someone made your face out of plaster
and then let it out in the sun for too long.
Yeah, like you're made in Geppetto's workshop, and then someone came along and touched you, and you turned into a real boy, and then became a stunt coordinator. Like, what the fuck happened? So he's like, yeah, I'll just do it. And he doesn't have many lines to have this epic fight, and there's all loads of sword play, and little Neil here is going and has a weird little kiddie boner for all the fucking sword fights. Like, oh my god, it's like an extension of my penis. I'm just banging it off someone else's penis. Wait a minute, I'm too young to be thinking about this.
There's sparks coming out.
Yeah, there's blue lightning. Did you know that in the movie the blue lightning is coming out? That's real.
Yeah,
it's not like a special effect later on.
They had the car batteries hooked up on little packs to the swords, and they used to burn their hands the whole time when they were fighting.
Because the wires that go through their hands.
That's dedication. You wouldn't see anyone doing that now.
Never. That's like a mad insurance fucking like what's that called? Like a liability. Like, what the fuck, man? Fighting is like, what do you want me to do? Fight with an electric sword? That was weird. That's my Christopher Lambert. That's as good as that's going to get.
It's close.
It's not. It's really bad.
You're leaning into Schwarzenegger.
But I could be the only one. And he fucking fighting this guy, and every time they hit swords, like blue arc light, and you're like, Jesus. And you're probably looking at that going, this is amazing.
Yeah. Practical effects and all that.
I want to store it. So the practical effects have always been good. So in the likes of RoboCop, like the practical effects that were done there rather than special effects really give that, or Jurassic Park as well, really give that longevity to the special effects, so they don't look fucking janky and shit and green screeny, because that shit dates like
it's like just looks like you laid another bit of film over the original film.
Exactly. Very, very sketch. And I'm sure in 15 or 20 years time the Transformers movies are going to look fucking hyenas.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to be like, it's so super shiny, realistic. It's super, like, ultra shitty realistic. Fucking 150 frames a second, like, eye rape. Like, I have to fucking watch fucking Mark Wahlberg's face and fucking 4K.
And you go outside and you see regular people. It's like, you're not real. You've got like, you've only got like, 3 dimensions.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I have to break up with you. Why? Just not high enough resolution for me. Breaking up with people over resolution. So like they're fighting in the fucking basement, and it's amazing. You don't know what's going on. Chops off his head, and he has a fucking weird electric orgasm. And then the transitions are fucking
I do really like them. Again, practical, but
exactly
really well done.
And Russell Mulcahy and the director of photography Jerry Fisher have made these like beautiful and practical transition. So the first time you see this is when the battle in the basement is over, and the camera starts to pan up to the roof of the car park, and as it goes through the roof, you're coming up through the ground, and you come out through some grass into fucking medieval Scotland.
Yeah.
And Conor McLeod and the clan McLeod are riding on horses and going across the bridge, and they're all like
heading out to battle.
We're going into battle.
Each other.
The first time I went into battle, I pissed my kilt. Whatever,
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. There's other ones as well where they go from a face, like Conor McLeod's that are killing somebody and his face is real solemn, and then the scene changes and it's like a graffiti of the Mona Lisa on a street wall in New York or whatever. That's going from past to future to past. Really nice transitions. Another one is the fish tank.
Yes.
So he's in the apartment
and he's having a little reminisce.
Yeah. He's looking through a book. He's like, oh, my 400 years of being alive. Oh, and it goes through the fish tank, and it goes up that pan up into a scene where Sean Connery and he are on a boat on a lake, and he's teaching him that he can't die.
Yeah,
and it's just that nice little through the water, fucking beautiful, man. Like it's very subtle, but like lovely and cinematic, So we find out then when Conor McLeod goes into battle that he is feeling the quickening.
He's feeling a little strange. You have you have the first appearance of Clancy Brown's character,
yes,
the Kurgan. We don't know who it is at this point.
Yeah.
We find out later, but you see he's obviously the evil dude. He's wearing like a gold armor where all these rest of these guys are wearing rags and kilts, and he has like the helmet of a wolf or some sharp-toothed animal coming over his face, and he's just like massive sword, and he's like,
black feathers.
He's really obviously.
What does he say when he's on the horse just before they go into battle? He's like
there's a boy called Connor among them, and the boy is mine, nobody touch him.
Yeah.
So you're already like, okay, so he's special. Christopher Lambert's
I will win this battle for you, but Connor is mine. Something like that. Yeah. But Clancy, man,
he's
great,
fucking fantastic.
Great character.
Like,
was he your favourite character?
He's pretty close. Yeah. He's. Because it's weird to say, like, he doesn't ham it up because the whole movie is a fucking side of glazed ham. The entire movie.
It's very camp, but super camp.
Yeah.
It's as camp as a 6-year-old boy carrying a sword everywhere in bicycle shorts in summer in Ireland with an orange plastic sword strapped to his back. And then if anyone gives him any shit, it's like,
motherfucker, I'm wearing bicycle shorts, and you can see the outline of my tiny baby penis, but I'll cut your fucking face with this plastic sword if you annoy me. Like, that was Neil as a child. No shit. Took no shit from no man. We were dressed by our mother, so I mean, you can't really.
We were lucky to come out of it. As half compass as we are.
Yeah, it took 10 years of drinking each just to get normal, but we were grand. But you don't fuck with Neil and a sword, man. I never knew why you didn't go into like training to be a ninja, working with fencing or something. Yeah, fencing, something sword. Hey, that's something you can do in your midlife crisis.
There you
go. Make a list. So yeah, Clancy Brown, brilliant character, fucking scary, man. He comes up onto this, and the lightning is in the sky, like you feel the quickening, and it's the first time Connor's like running through the battlefield, going like, McLeod, fight me. They won't fight me. And his cousin is going like, if they won't fight you, come over and stand next to me. I'm a sexy, Scottish clowns, man. And fucking his wife is all like, bring him back in one piece now, you hear? And he's like, I know what piece you want. You fucking dirty bastard. So it's just you get to immediately see there's this conflict, and it's building towards a final battle that's called The Gathering.
Yeah, and but you already know, like in between those two scenes, like the beheading in the car park, and then the lightning and the dramatic intro of the Kurgan in the first flashback to Scotland. Yeah. You're already like, okay, it's grimy, it's set in New York, it's modern, but it's a fantasy.
There's magic.
There's magic, there's everything. So you're already first like 8 minutes.
You're pretty much on it. You just have to unravel what the crack is, and there is so much lore in this shit. Like the Kurgan's character, apparently has like a massive backstory and stuff. Gregory Wielding, the guy who wrote the script, he said that the original screenplay was much darker and like much grittier, but they had to make it in I think like PG-13 or whatever. There was no swearing or anything in this movie. Like, it's just, and there's minimal violence. There's like
it's a couple of beheadings,
but it's very
blood.
Yeah, very Sesame Street kind of beheadings. You're like, one of these things is not like the other. He raped his girlfriend in the castle and killed Sean Connery. Doodly doo. Oh, bird, there can be only one. But yeah, he said that like Conor McLeod was born much earlier in the original screenplay, and he lived with his mother and father, and he left the village on his own, and it was kind of this whole hero's journey kind of thing, rather than what did happen, which was he got into the battle with the Kurgan, he was stabbed, he was dying, and he didn't die, and then his villagers went, he's got the devil in him, and they kicked him out, and he had to go off on this kind of still like a forced hero's journey. It's just like Star Wars or any of those young boy discovers he has secret powers, and it's,
I think it works better that way, is the complete loss of everything.
Yes,
and then the journey starts.
And I think because of the success of something like Aunt Peru being burned, and the whole with the water farm, and it's kind of, you're cast out, you have nothing to stay for. You're forced into that life, whereas he could have been hidden for years and not told anyone, and watched all these villagers get older around him, and they're all like, what's going on, Conor McLeod, you young motherfucker? Like, it just seems for a movie, but for the story as well, a better choice.
Yeah,
They also said that the Kurgan has this huge backstory where he would go to Genghis Khan and fight with the Mongol hordes and fight with the Tatars, and he beheaded, like, he's the one who beheaded the most immortals all through
the early years.
Yeah, he was born in like 400 BC. There's not like a novelized version of the book, and there's a huge history with the Kurgan, and like all the wars he fought and how he got to be the warrior that he is. And I think there's a lot more gravity in that, and there's definitely room for like a prequel or a Kurgan movie on its own. And he would make a good anti-hero, because if you look at the way Highlander is constructed, we're sympathising already with Conor McLeod. There can be only one. Like, why should it be him?
Yeah,
do you know? We're told by Juan Vilalobos Ramirez, Sean Connery's character, that the Kurgan is evil, and if he wins the prize, which is the thing that the Immortals get when the gathering is over. So in the Immortal world, you live your life, if your head comes away from your neck, it's over, right? And this is in the training montage that Connery puts him through, which is like one of the best montages I've ever. Yeah, there's a thing at the end called The Gathering, where all the immortals come together and they fight until there's only one left, and then that guy wins the prize. We don't know what the prize is. We're never told, really. There's a scene at the end, we'll talk about that later on, but there's a scene at the end that's like, wow, lovely. And you kind of get a glimpse of it, but it's not 100%. And we're told the story from Conor McLeod's point of view, and that he's deserving of it. Like, he still did some shitty things. He still did some, like, you know, he's not great, but he was benevolent, and he saved, you know, the secretary that's in his office. So he lives in modern day New York, and he's an antiques dealer, and he has this blonde woman that's, you know, an English blonde secretary that lives with him or whatever. And there's a weird kind of romantic vibe going on, like they used to be lovers, and then she got a bit old, younger, and he was like, oh, you're getting a bit old. And he saved her from like wartime Germany or something like that, you know. One of my favourite scenes actually is that where he discovers her and goes, I'm alone too. Yeah. Do you want to come with me? And she's like, okay. And he gets shot by a Nazi. Yeah. And he's still alive, and she wakes him up and goes, are you okay? And he's like, yes. He's like, are you dead? He goes, no, it's a kind of magic. And he gets up, and the German is like, Schnitzel schnell. And he's like, whatever you say, Jack, you're a master race. And he shoots him. Like, that's brilliant. Just a little tiny clip. And you could do that that could be a 40-minute bit. That could be a whole movie on its own. The Highlander in World War II. Yeah, of him surviving it and then coming with Rachel, and how Rachel grew up in New York. Madness. Yeah. Madness, like so many. But it's just it's a quick and precise way to do the character development and relationship. Highlander 2 instead, man. Like, why did they do that shit? Why? They made Highlander 3 the quickening instead. Because they went to the focus group. What do you like most? The swords and the thing. Fucking annoying. So, like, great little backstory with that. Like, and like the Kurgan. Because we followed Conor McLeod's like advancement as a character, we're like, oh, we fucking love him, and he deserves to win. Yeah, in our eyes, or as we're shown by Mulcahy, like that he deserves to win. Why not the Kurgan? Why doesn't the Kurgan deserve to win? Yeah, like people do shitty things all the time, and just because you enjoy killing other immortals, like why should you be like a reluctant, you know, immortal? Or you're like, oh, I don't want to kill everybody. I'll just wait till all the other immortals kill each other, and then whoever's left, whoever's left at the very end, I just kill that guy. Yeah, and you're like, this is like getting a bye into, like, you know, a round robin in a tournament, and you just don't have to play any matches, so you don't have to go through that thing of like, oh man, I had to kill my friend, or I had to kill, you know, because Conor McLeod doesn't have any of those. You don't have a. I was just going to say, you don't have a look back at his other fights with immortals. Like, you don't know how many he could have fought with, like, and maybe Facile, the guy he kills in the first scene, could be the first pure one. Sound. Yeah, maybe he fucking started, like, I don't know, the children's hospital from Peter Pan, Great Ormond Street or something. Like, he's the fucking he used his immortality to get amass a huge fortune. He built a children's hospital that cures cancer, and then fucking Conor McLeod chops his head off in a basement under Madison Square Gardens. Like, where the fuck is the justice in that? We don't know this shit. We're not told this shit. We just presume. Like in those 80s movies, as it's presented, Conor McLeod is the hero. I'd love to see a Kurgan movie, and I think it could turn the Highlander franchise on its head to go like, maybe the Kurgan was the dark ones. Yeah. Maybe he was, alleged. Maybe he did the right thing, and or you could see how he was turned over to be evil because of whatever had happened to him. Like, his village was killed. Apparently, the story goes, when the way he died for the first time was that his dad smashed his head in with a rock, and then obviously his head like grew back or something, and he then killed his father by making him swallow a hot stone. And he burned to death, very similar to the Targaryen brothers' death. When he pours the molten gold over his face, like that kind of a thing. You're like, oh yeah, probably deserved it. Probably deserved that. And the Kurgan has a huge like value, and like intricate and mysterious past, and you're like, what's driving this guy? Like, is he just pure evil? I don't believe that he's just pure evil. There's something going on. Some shit has happened to him that, you know, dictates his behavior, and he's seen some shit. Like, we all go like Alexander the Great, man.
He was the fucking, the greatest leader of, like Napoleon, man. He was a bit of a cunt, but like best military mind. You know, like Genghis Khan, bit of a savage, had 40,000 kids, but like can't doubt the man's ability to take over a country. And like, you know, Kurgan had a hand in all of that stuff, according to the backstory.
Right.
In what way? You know, how did was he the one that was saying like, oh yeah, no, listen, Genghis, do you know the way you're raping like 50,000? Like your soldiers are raping 50. How about like you leave the raping only for like the top tier dudes? Bring it down to like 500 or 1,000 because you're making too many babies and we have to feed them all and all this kind of stuff. And trying to go like ease back on the old, you know, pillaging and rape and Genghis. Like we just want the country, but we don't want it filled with babies we can't feed yet. Like chill out. And Genghis is like,
who are going to grow up later on.
Yeah,
as, you know.
resenting. You're raping all of these women and making babies that in 20 years will form an army that'll take you down, so fucking chill out. That's the Kurgan's advice, like whispering into, like maybe that happened. Do you know? Love to see a Kurgan prequel for this. So the character is really rich, very, very, you know, mysterious, and he just comes into the movie and he's like, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, he just chews up the whole scene.
Yeah, and undeniable. And very like, yeah, this gun's evil. Drives the Kurgan mobile, the big fucking like a big Chevy. And he pulls up, like he's all in modern day times, he's like a punk. He's into like grimy shit. He's into these like you know, like prostitute hotels or whatever, and it's all punk rock.
But it's all like his leather outfit, it mirrors his old armor. Like one side is covered and the other bit isn't, and there's like his glove is the same
glove, but it's like for battle, so that his sword arm has more mobility, and he's not like bound by like a leather jacket squeaking and stuff. He cut the shoulder off it so he can move more, and it's very, this cunt knows what he's at. You know, really cool. Then it gets into the main story, the thing that drives it, which evidently, because it's a fucking 80s movie, is a love interest, and we get introduced to Brenda Wyatt. You
get introduced through what seems to be like it's the most public beheading of another immortal, because
this is pre-ISIS.
There you go. Before they started taping it. Because like, alright, so these guys have been knocking around for hundreds of years, thousands of years, some of them. In McLeod's case it's like 450 or whatever it is. Why hasn't there been like reports before? It's like, it's like a series of weird beheadings and stuff blowing up in fucking wherever they were living at the time. Like, so this is the first time it's happening, and as soon as McLeod pulls out of the parking lot, he's arrested and start to get into the whole thing of the cops getting involved in this. Like the antique sword is found, and it's like, I was worth about $1 million. So like it's just lying around in the car park.
That's it.
And so people are like, alright, this stuff is
sword.
This was Facile's sword, the first guy that he kills. And so this interests Brenda Wyatt, who is a forensics investigator with the NYPD.
And
but she's also
the investigators as well, because they think he's an antiques dealer.
Yes, exactly. So it's all tied in.
They got into an argument over the price of the sword while he was trying to sell it, and Nash, as like Conor McLeod, who's now called Russell Nash, is getting pinned for this murder.
Exactly. And I think like it really makes sense when you pull back from it. Like it's logical for them to be thinking that, and logical for Brenda later on to be like so interested in pursuing Nash, because it is so weird to have these swords or this material lying around the place.
And it's not
an art. Yeah, exactly. She's interested in sword making and ancient swords, so it's not like an arbitrary thing of like, oh, she saw him and she liked how he looked, so she got in. It's like she's investigating.
Exactly. She's not a woman led by her fanny lips into a story. She's led by her
own personal interest. She has her
mind
own
vulva.
Exactly. She has her own goal in it. She's not like a sidekick pull along.
She's a Bechdel test a kind of subverter or whatever. She has a history before she was in the police, and she wrote these books on metallurgy and sword making and ancient swords and stuff, and she's an expert scientist first. And like, I think that's underrated, you know, all the STEM subjects and stuff they're trying to get young girls into now. It's like, I mean, there was characters like that she's a strong woman, don't take no shit. She's not in it to fuck him.
No.
Even though she does before the end of the movie, but that's because they're falling in love.
Yeah.
And it's not like, it's legitimate, right? And she asks him over to the house, not to, you know, have the old rumpy pumpy, but she wants to get info. She's like, I'm interested in this sword. And She goes down and investigates the crime scene, pulls a bit of metal out of the wall from where Conor McLeod chopped off Fazil's head, finds that it's from a Japanese sword that's not supposed to exist. And the quote, I think, is, if I discovered this sword, it'd be like finding an airplane
1,000
years before the Wright brothers ever flew. So the technology, because the metal was folded 200 times and all that stuff, I didn't understand when we watched the first. It was just like, 200. It was a sword making skill that was bestowed upon the Japanese,
or they discovered it,
they discovered it
whatever
somehow,
Middle Ages.
Yeah, and it was from I think 1,500 years ago, and Juan Vilalobos Ramirez, that was his sword, and he was in love with a Japanese princess, and her father made the sword in 400 AD, and he had this sword for 1,500 years or 1,000 years or whatever before he met Conor McLeod, and he Conor McLeod kept that sword for 500 years, and then Brenda Wyatt is like, where'd you get this thing? Here's one rare sword. I found the metal from another rare sword. Who's this fucking Russell Nash guy?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So there is a definite, it's not just arbitrary.
No.
And the way she involves herself in the case, she's tenacious, she's strong-willed, and a great character.
Yeah.
She eventually gives it up before the end of the film, but that's because she's like, I fucking love you, man. And he's like, I'm going to go into battle, and it may be my last, I could die. She's like, well, I love you. Do you know? So it's nice, little circle closed or whatever. So she starts to follow him. He starts to follow her, and there's kind of a mutual suspicion. And then when the Kurgan and the Highlander meet for the first time, it's in the streets of New York, because these guys get this unnatural urge to come together to fight for the in the gathering. When there's okay, Conor McLeod has been cast from his village. He's making love to his new girlfriend, in the Highlands of Scotland, and a man on a horse jumps over a rock and announces himself as, I am a Spanish immortal. I am a chief metallurgist to the King of Spain. And this guy apparently spent 2 months learning a Spanish dialect in Spain to be able to do this thing, and he still fucking sounds more Scottish than anybody else in a movie about Scotland. I'm a Spanish immortal. I'm 2,500 years old. I'm Egyptian, and I've lived all over the world, and I've come here to train you, Conor McLeod, because I know you're a Highlander, because I heard it in my quickening guts, right? And he trains him how to fight and does all that stuff and tells him the whole thing about being a Highlander. And the rules are, don't lose your head. If your head comes away from your neck, it's over. There's the Kurgan. He's the strongest of all the immortals, and there's no history to where they came from. It's just, we are.
He just said but the line is, why does the sun come up?
Why
are we
the sky blue? Yeah. And you're like,
the
science.
That was just pinholes in the curtain of night.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And they just exist. They're just another species of a type of human or whatever. And he brings them through this whole kind of running down the beach thing, which I think is very funny, because it's stipulations in Connery's contract, he doesn't run in any movie. So they have a very dodgy body double that's running, is feel the stag beating. And then it's just running, and it's just some guy with a beard stuck to his face going, I'm Sean Connery. You're like, no, you're not, dude.
You're running for him. Yeah.
But Connery as Ramirez, he did all the work for the whole movie in 7 days.
7 days,
in and out. And even the monologue at the start of the movie sounds real echoey and sounds all this stuff. That's because he was sitting in the toilet in a Spanish villa recording it, and he sent it on, and I couldn't take the echo out, so just left it in.
Yeah.
Because he was in Spain learning how to do a Spanish accent, that he came on and went, okay, Sean, are you ready? Yes. Okay.
And Spanish.
And action. My name is Juan Vilalobos Ramirez. I'm a Spanish immortal. And there is a joke done about that. Ed Sam does a great stand-up bit about that whole thing. But he was in Spain learning how to do Spanish. I never knew that till I started researching for the show. Why bother?
No.
Why bother?
He's got a good holiday out of it.
At all. He got 2 months in a villa in Spain going, oh yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What the fuck, man? So he describes the whole thing. Spoiler alert, gets into a fight, the Kurgan chops his head off, takes all his power, the whole thing, and
that night, in that scene, I don't understand that scene at all. Where the fuck is Conor? Like, he's not exactly out at the shops.
Yeah, there's like why is he missing? But yeah.
There's a scene where Ramirez and Conor's wife Heather, who's played by Beattie Edney, and she's like a blonde, like lovely looking girl, and she's like, "Oh, Conor," and he's falling on his arse in the montage. She's like, "Oh, you silly sausage," even though sausages haven't been invented yet, but you know. And she is just having a drink. Mm-hmm. And he's telling stories of like young ones he rode. He's like, and I came into the window on a rope, and I was like, where's the woman that I came here to, fuck? And it's like, she's not here anymore. Well, so then I just fucked her instead. Heather, haha. And she gave me any guff, I'd give her a lick at the back of my hand. He wasn't
method acting.
Methods big time, yeah. Drinking real wine and stuff. And then Kurgan breaks into the castle, fucking smashes the whole shit up. They have a big fight, chops his head off, does the fucking electric jizz. Mm-hmm. And, Conor's like, oh fuck, Ramirez is gone now.
Yeah, he comes back to his broken home and
just the whole thing.
His mentor is dead.
And it's like the advancement of Conor McLeod is like tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. Mm-hmm. And then he's fallen in love, and Ramirez warns him and says, because the princess with the sword, right? So Ramirez has this whole thing of like, I've been through it. You have to leave her, brother. Mm-hmm. And he's saying like, leave Heather.
Yeah.
Break up with her.
I've had my heart broken. I wouldn't want you to go through it.
Exactly. So. And it's shit crack. And he's like, Kumiko, Japanese princess. Her father made this short for me. Mm-hmm. And he tells the whole story, this whole thing. So those flashbacks are like really well woven into the story and the development of the character. And it's not like, here's a bit of exposition, here's a thing in the future that qualifies that exposition. Here's another bit of fucking history, and here's here's what his character is like now after 450 years with that on his mind. Mm-hmm. It's not that.
I mean, like, going back and forth is so easy to lose a flow. Like,
yeah, man, big time.
But it's chronologically, it's great.
Yeah,
like,
but it's not forced though. I mean, it's not like here's a thing that happened in the past, and here's actions in the future that are dictated directly by that bit that you just saw. Like, none of that matters. It's just like, here's extra stuff about him.
Yeah, the rest of the story.
Exactly. And so Ramirez is dead. He has his sword, and he lives with Heather till the end of her life. And it just shows that, like, fortitude of character, that he's like, no, I love her.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay with her. And she's like, oh, you're so young still, and I'm old. Don't look at me. I'm dying. And he's like, yeah, no, I can see. But it's just like the heartbreak. And you got to live that heartbreak and watch that heartbreak with him, because...
And then you have, the soundtrack then. You have Queen... Yeah, coming out with the perfect tunes for a scene, like
wants to live forever.
Just real pulls at you.
Queen music in the fucking it is. It makes it
like from that first opening bit. Like, Sean Connery does a little intro, and then just breaks into Princes of the Universe, like, here we are, and it's the hairs just come up on your arm already, like you're just ready to go for it.
I have no rival. I have inside me blood of kings, and you're like, fucking.
I mean, it's a fantastic soundtrack that they didn't release as a soundtrack because of the difference in dates for like European versus American release for the movie.
They didn't want to spoil it.
Yeah, so they just had A Kind of Magic instead.
They released it in 1988. On A Kind of Magic, and it's like all the songs are there. Prince of the Universe, Who Wants to Live Forever, some of the slower ones, and there's A Kind of Magic as well that's playing from the Nazi bit. Don't Lose Your Head. And Queen were actually hired to only make one song for this film, and then they went and watched the screening of it, and Brian May was in the back of the taxi on the way going, Who Wants to Live Forever? Oh, when love must die. Oh, Jesus, I was raging when she turned real old. Okay, Who Want to Live? Oh, Freddie can do that. Okay, cool, yeah, we do it. And they were all writing songs. They wrote Hammer to Fall, like specifically for that end bit that I don't want to spoil it, but it's like there's a huge emotional build up and like, they even went songs for it,
even went and sung like Freddie Mercury didn't want to record New York, and he's coming in near the end of the movie, and then he was just like, oh no, well, if it works for the scene, and we'll do it this version, like. And
they made their own version of that as well. That was when Brenda was being driven by the Kurgan around in the car. Like he abducted her to lure Conor into a battle or whatever. with Sean Connery on the set, like he was there for 7 days. His character is kind of just like, it's the first hour of the film is the build up, the making of the Highlander, and Conor McLeod being trained by Ramirez, and that whole thing was all done in 7 days.
Yeah,
like that's pretty special. Connery also had a clause that no one was to fucking mention James Bond. If anyone did, they were fired. He would also waste loads of time. They could have got it done in 4 days, but he wasted loads of time calling all the producers and the directors and all together, telling them all what they're doing wrong. It's like, I've been on many movie sets and you guys are doing this. Like the director said, like in years later, he's like, he's a fucking annoying.
It's hard to work with.
Coming in for 7 days, like it's like, do you know that guy can't really speak English? So apparently, he was a monster to work. Yeah, well, that's the usual crack with him, I think. And he agreed to do the second one because him and Christopher Lambert were having such crack, and they even called each other like Christopher Lambert was like, Ramirez, like that was even outside of work.
Yeah,
and Lambert insisted that Sean Connery be on the next one, on Highlander 2, and Sean Connery signed off on it before reading the script. And then he's like, what? We're fucking aliens from another planet. No. You signed it, Sean. Fuck's sake, okay. I'll be in it for 4 minutes. And I'm doing Shakespeare. You're like, fuck.
He wrote Shakespeare into the class.
It's like, call my name and I will appear like a magic genie, not like a 2,500 year immortal. But yeah, I think that the best supporting character definitely is Kurgan.
Yes.
And Clancy Brown wanted that to be less punk and more serious, more like the written version, where the Kurgan isn't like a savage, but he's just like a real evil,
more of a Hannibal type of evil,
a more Moriarty kind of a bad guy, rather than like a brutal savage. And then you have kind of shades of Littlefinger, from Game of Thrones, where he's like that kind of
Machiavellian,
exactly, whispering in Genghis Khan's ear, going, I know some shit,
it's an angle you could take as well.
Absolutely. And Clancy Brown was like, hey, would you not dress this guy, instead of dressing him up like a punk, would you not dress him in a suit with a bowler hat and have him be like, and then he fights and stuff. And Mulcahy, the director, said, no, let's just balls out with it's the fucking 80s.
80s, put everything in front so there's no ambiguity.
Exactly.
But like even just a touch of, because there's a point in the past in the flashback scenes where Ramirez cuts the Kurgan's throat, and his voice changes afterwards, and it's that way through the whole movie. It's like that real like raspy, gravelly, and it changes after. So like it's just why does he explain like, he's hamming it up, he's being really evil, just doing an evil voice? It's like, no, he had his throat cut open. So, but
you can see that scar from the very start. And you're like, well, how does he get that? Where does he? And then in that break the castle down and rape your wife and cut Ramirez's head off scene, he does get a slice, like, and they, in one of my favourite parts in the film, they allude to this, and one of the rules Connery, or like Ramirez, gives McLeod is like, we don't fight on holy ground. None of us will violate that law. So they meet in a church, and Conor McLeod is sitting in the church, and they're the only two left. There can be only one. And Kurgan comes up behind him. He's like, Highlander. He's like, Kurgan, I see you've got a haircut. He's like, I'm in disguise. Because he had chopped off Castigair's head, and he had stabbed some veteran, this like Vietnam vet.
So there's like a description of him out on the wire, and
he's like, this guy has to come. So McLeod goes like, nice voice. I see Ramirez's blade didn't cut deep enough. And he's like, I ripped his woman before his body was even cold. And then there's like a flicker in McLeod's eyes where you see, he's like, it wasn't his woman, it was your woman. And that whole scene where he's like going to the nuns now, ladies, blah 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 blah. And then he goes, better to burn out than to fade away. And he does all these like punching karate moves and stuff, and he leaves the church like a bit of a cunt. Yeah. And you hate him. But I'd love to see how he got there. I'd love to hate him. Brilliant. Brilliant. And that whole thing then, when you find out that little bit of history that happened way ages ago, and for like 400 years, and then finally, like, he was in the church lighting a candle on Heather's birthday, because at her dying bed she goes, light a candle on my birthday and think of me. And he was in doing that, and then Kurgan comes in and goes, I raped her. Oh, and she never told you.
And there's the bit of him, like, you see, because he's putting out all the candles. Like,
He goes, oh, she never told you. She must have liked it. And secretly she yearned for it. And that's like ruined Conor McLeod's whole history. Ruined his whole life.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck, man, that's grim. But a great motivation to chop his head off into a final fight, right?
Big sure. He nearly, that's what I mean. Like, the bad guy has to remind him of the rules as he jumps up and grabs his throat. Like,
that's the thing. So, have you got any other favourite bits?
Oh, so many.
Lash out a few.
There's bits
that are like the people's appetite.
There's bits like, there's a bit that could be cut entirely from the movie and wouldn't change anything, but it's just like a fun kind of a, like, what would the practicalities of being an immortal guy and say you get drunk and you piss somebody off, and it's 17 fucking whatever, and people are dueling over 1783, I think it was.
Very good year.
It's a very good year, which is also referenced earlier on in the movie and everything. It's all these little callbacks. It's deadly. And he insults some aristocrat's wife, and he's called
the laugh, Christopher Lambert laugh,
and he's called out for a duel
for war talk.
There's just like little things like that.
He's called out for a duel on Boston Common.
That's it, yes,
or Boston Green or something
Boston
like that.
Commons, I think. Yeah.
And your man like pokes him with a sword like 40 times, and he keeps getting. I think you missed him, sir.
Yeah, but like Lambert, like McLeod, he's smashed drunk as well. Like, so he's still like falling all over the place trying to fight him.
Yeah, that's a good scene.
It's like,
it could be totally
completely cut. There's no need for it.
And another character that's really good that you don't find out fuck all about, that instigates that conversation, is a guy called Castigier, who's played by Hugh Quarshie, and he looks like maybe like an African prince, maybe.
Yeah, he's wearing some kind of traditional dress, and
it's like robes and yellow and white robes. So you're like, is it this like what's going on? And you get a little bit of, when was the last time we drank together? It's been 100 years. Oh yeah, what was that? Oh, I remember the last time we drank together was 1783, and you get that call back to when he brought Brenda a bottle of brandy from 1783 or whatever, and we don't get to find anything about Castigier.
But like, it's even the thing is like, okay, so he's come across other immortals in his time and been mates.
Has he ever fought any of them cunts?
That's what I mean.
Like, is he just like, I'm going to be friends with you, but the Kurgan's going to kill you and then I'm going to kill him to win? Do you know? So there's like, obviously, like in X-Men or whatever, there's a whole set of bad immortals and a whole set of good ones, and who decides and where are the rest of them, and those kind of stories are explored like in Highlander 2 and 3, where there's different dudes on different sides of history and different sides of good and evil on the spectrum, but there always has to be a bad guy and a good guy. And why does Conor McLeod always win? So I'd love to find out Castigier's story. Where did he come from? Like, that's a whole other movie.
Exploration.
And if Highlander was now and it was as popular, instead of 1986 it was released now and it was as popular now as it was then, there would be all these things like with Star Wars, with Rogue One and the Han Solo movie and all these other prequels and sequels and side quests and all this kind of shit. Like, Highlander has so much lore and so much stuff in it that's just sword fights, immortals, fucking blue lightning, boobies, like comedy, Christopher Lambert, brilliant. I'd love to find out what happened with Castigier. Another good one is the Vietnam vet who goes down the alleyway when Castigier and Kurgan are fighting, and he riddles him full of bullets, and Kurgan fucking stabs him in the stomach and holds him up in the air on the sword, and they just go flicks him off like you'd have like fucking pigs in a blanket on the end of a cocktail stick, just like, and it like really good scenes.
But even like the way that they did the scene like afterwards, so the veteran, he's in the hospital and he's giving his report to the cops, and so you hear the normal part first, and then he goes, okay, and guys, there was one more thing. And he calls him back, and the camera goes to outside, like you see him through the glass, and he's really animated, and it's just like the background noise of the hospital, and there's like a musical thing like ramping up. It's like, so he's telling a crazy story. You know what the story is, but you don't hear the dialogue
because as an audience,
you already know what happened.
That's the directorial decision. Like, you already seen it happening, and you don't know what he's telling the cops. But as the cops walk out of they're
like, fucking
the room, just goes mental.
Yeah. It's
brilliant,
really well done. Like.
And I love the way they pulled out Russell and Alex, pulled out McLeod's picture and go, it was him, right? It's like, no, it was a different guy. He's a scar on his neck. Are you sure it wasn't him? Yeah. And the guards and the cops are like, fuck.
Yeah.
We thought we had this guy. Do you know? So it's a sword fight. It's a love story. It's time travel. No, not time travel, but like
time displaced
movie. It's got romance. It's a thriller. It's science fiction. It's
a fantasy.
A little bit of comedy. It's it's an all rounder. And we watched this when we were kids, and we probably shouldn't have.
No, probably not. But
like we watched RoboCop.
Yeah,
and probably shouldn't.
Yeah, no, definitely.
You know, watched Airplane. Probably shouldn't have. Do you know? And I think kids need to be exposed to this kind of stuff to give them those imaginations and give them.
Oh yeah.
Do you know? I mean, I'm not talking about like watch fucking Rob Zombie movies when you're 6.
No, but one
like,
of these like
Highlander
this basically it's a fantasy movie.
Yeah.
Like it would be the same as Labyrinth, only harder.
Exactly.
Bit tougher, like.
Bit tougher.
But more, I mean, like the
few more beheadings.
I mean, like the way they juxtapose it, like you have the Scottish scenes and all, like it's really beautiful landscape and all of this. And you go to New York, I don't think there's any shot in the movie that makes New York look attractive or a pleasant place. It's all dirty, grimy, steam, dark, dangerous. So like that's the
maybe it tells of the atmosphere. Like back then life was beautiful and you know lush and green, and now the gathering happens in one of the most at the time dangerous and crime-filled cities of in the world. And you know the darkness is coming. So let's talk a little bit about the quickening then before we finish up and talk about the alternative cast. The quickening is a thing that in the movie, like it's a feeling you get in your guts, and you're like, oh, there's another Martin here, like a GPS. Apparently the quickening is a real thing, and it's what they call when a fetus in the womb moves and a woman can feel it for the first time.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a birth, like there's a life inside, another life inside me. That's a good name to name it. I only found that out researching for this. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
So now, whenever you and me go to have kids, she's like, oh, I can feel the baby moving. And can't wait.
No, that's the quickening.
I can't wait to run up and hold the stomach and look her in the eye and go, that's the quickening. It's like, what? I can't wait to do that. That's like,
that's brilliant.
You know, I'm holding off obviously because you know who needs kids right now, but for those of you who are expecting,
but it is a thing. It's like
it's a great joke.
It's like Lambert is giving birth in that scene though as well when Sean Connery finds him first and the lightning hits him and he's like, like, I think Lambert he's a good moaner in this.
He is, and he moans in French.
Yeah,
it's very odd. So with the quickening, it's like a feeling that you get. I see he didn't get the quickening when he went to meet Castigear. So maybe later on, as time goes on, he feels it, but it's not as debilitating to him.
Right.
Do you know, like, do you remember those belts they used to get for your abs, and they go like, and they give you, apparently
they vibrate the shit out of you.
Yeah, you can order the electric shock your muscles, and you're Jesus, turn it off. We used to do competitions with them.
Turn them up to the highest.
Get real stoned and see how long you could take. Like 45 seconds at 10. Yeah, deadly. But you would wonder, like, when he goes to meet Castigear, why he doesn't feel that. He's all like, let's go drinking.
They say, like, when you say that scene when the Kurgan comes in to kill Connery, it's just a kind of a spider sense at that
Connery's
stage,
drinking,
as
and
opposed to,
and he puts the glass down,
and he looks
like,
up, and the pigeons all burst out.
Yeah.
So I think that like it turns into that after a certain amount of time.
Spider sense. Can you imagine being Castigear as an immortal? He must have had a really shit time until the 80s, man.
Yeah, it depends on where he was, I suppose.
Like all through life,
if he got lifted up as I mean, like if he was around in the slave labour times,
that's it, like
an immortal slave.
That'd be so annoying.
Fucking shit, like
shite. Do you know? I think that he came to a time when you know there was less racism. It's the mid 80s, and then he gets his head chopped off by a white guy. He's like, "Fuck, raging." So with the quickening, you can feel that kind of thing, and then when you kill the last immortal, you get the prize. And towards the end, without wanting to spoil it, like there's great animations and all this kind of stuff when that stuff happened. One of the best scenes for me is when McLeod just like they're having a fight and he just slices his neck and then turns around and it's like gone. It goes all weird and anamorphic and
the Kurgan has like a weird smile, and he's like, and his head peels off his neck, and all the blue stuff starts shooting out, and it goes into animations where McLeod is like hoisted up, and he's, you know, stretched out like a crucifix, and he has all these blue cartoon monsters,
and demons or whatever coming into him,
and you're wondering, like, are these guys, you know, demons? Are they devils? Like, what's going on? What is the history here? And the prize, he shouts, he screams, and I know everything. So is that the prize? Where he knows everything, he knows the thoughts of all men, and he can feel the thoughts of all men, and he goes, like, in the final part, like when he's describing to Brenda, who he falls in love with, he's going like, I can hear the thoughts of presidents, diplomats and scientists. I know what they're thinking, and I can help them to make humanity better. And you're like, cool. And also he gets mortality and the ability to have kids, which he didn't have before. And we're wondering, like, what's the prize? Is it the ability to procreate? Is it the ability to die and suffer and have the suffering end? Or is it the ability to know everything? Or is it all of them?
Yeah, it's because it's never really, it's just literally the prize. It's the quest object.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, we as humans have two of those things, apart from the we know everything thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, what's
it's a prize for Immortal.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. The people that don't have it, and it maybe makes people watching the movie think, be grateful for what you have, because some people don't have that. Some people fucking get to live forever. And I'm like, who wants to live forever? Who wants to live forever?
Exactly.
Do you know? Trump, maybe?
Yeah.
Warren Buffett. John D. Rockefeller, he had fucking 7 heart transplants. Do you know?
He tried.
John D. is like, put on the Highlander soundtrack. We have inside us blood of kings. He's like, yeah, Rockefeller blood. Who wants to live forever?
This is his favourite movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we're to do an alternative casting, very difficult.
Very, very difficult.
Very difficult. I think for the Kurgan, you're looking at somebody who has that maniacal nature, but also has the body size or the, you know, the ability to fight and be like like dominating in it. So maybe like a Dolph Lundgren, like the craziness from Universal Soldier could transfer into that. He could play that. It's such a classic movie, and I've watched it like 100 times, so it's burned in my head.
It's hard to see anyone's face in it. Yeah,
see anyone else, but to try and give the folks at home some kind of an idea of the range or whatever, or the inimitability that Clancy Brown puts into that character. You know, I would pick like maybe a Dolph Lundgren, or you could go for, if he was big and muscly and active, like you need someone with the size of Dolph Lundgren and the character of Gary Oldman, which I think Clancy Brown has. Like both sides of it.
That savage maniac. Yeah. I get you.
I've recently watched the Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and this next choice for me, after watching him play Star-Lord's father in that, would convince me that he's able to do it now in his older age. He has that kind of the joviality, but also the wisdom, and he has, you know, the acting chops to be able to pull it off. Kurt Russell could play Ramirez and do a proper Spanish accent, and have that, you know, you blithering peacock, or whatever. Like Kurt Russell could play that father figure-y kind of training, and what I saw of him in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, like he definitely could have that kind of character. And I think Guardians of the Galaxy is kind of a modern day Highlander.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, you find out that Star-Lord, spoilers, played by Chris Pratt, he's like a guy who was abducted as a child, into a spaceship and brought off into the galaxy, and he has to fight, and he learns all these skills, and he does all the stuff, like plucked out of time, taken from his land, you know, he's everything taken off me, he has nothing to lose, and he's like, you know, a guy fighting around trying to, like, benevolent, trying to save the universe. And then you find out at the end of the first movie he has mad special powers, and he's actually like half god. It's the same with Conor McLeod. He finds out, I have fucking godly powers or whatever, you know? So there will be, fingers crossed, a Highlander reboot.
But I remember reading an article about it
last year.
Yeah, sometime last year.
So the director of John Wick, Chad Stahelski, is apparently chalked down to do a reboot, and he's talking about trying to get Christopher Lambert back in to do something, maybe not reprise the role of Conor McLeod, but have something cameo. Yeah, something in there. Like, he has to be involved if he's still alive, Lord of Mercy. Same with Ramirez. Some flashbacks or some shit like that. Like, they do some CGI. If they can do it with Jeff Bridges in Tron, they can do it with Sean Connery, you know,
or Arnie in Terminator.
Yeah, if they can do anything to make sure Sean Connery's not on the set, I'd say they'll do it. So about these computers, I have to tell you how they work. It's like, Sean, you're 78 years of age. Fuck off. You don't know nothing about CGI. So to do a reboot, I think, like, and fucking nail those, like, Castigear side movie, Kurgan side movie. What, Ramirez in Japan?
There you go.
Who's going to play it? Like a young Ramirez Egypt played by Eddie Redmayne. Plays a young Ramirez. You know, Eddie Redmayne plays the bad guy in the first Thor, in the Thor movies.
Yeah.
The Danish girl as well. Eddie Redmayne is young Ramirez. Totally the facial structure, put a beard on him, you know, give him a Japanese wife, like that whole story. Like, man, if they can make fucking 6 Wolverine movies, surely they can get decent shit out of a Highlander film, like.
And like, that's what I mean. You can rewrite the lore, like, just keep it within the confines of the first, like the blueprint of the first movie.
And there's loads of stuff like before and like there's 400 years of Conor McLeod. Now I know there is a TV show with like following the
McLeod character,
of Duncan McLeod or whatever, but it's all kind of in the one timeline. You get a few little flashbacks and stuff, but it's not a comprehensive exploration of the encyclopedia of Highlanders. But it does bring in other different Highlander characters, and there's always like a bad guy, and there's loads of ones to you know, solving the modern day and olden day problems. And you're like, well, okay, whatever. But definitely a reboot and a whole franchise of Highlander movies. Like, I'd put money into a cinema coffer.
Oh yeah,
to go and see that shit, man. Absolutely. Like, they're making fucking reboots of shite. Like, taking just random comic books, like flicking through a long box and just
they're just
Bunty. Let's do like a Bunty film. You know, like
hold on. How many diverse comics did we do this week? It's like, no, we're not hitting the quota. Like, go to the box in the back there. And
Black Panther 3 or whatever. It just seems like something that's as loved as Highlander. Like, I mean, fucking license to print money, man.
Big time.
Do you know? So who would you have? Have you got anyone for the Kurgan?
I don't know. Like, as I said, I would have left it out towards like a Dolph Lundgren type, like something big and imposing. I don't know. Maybe. If you want to go Mahershala Ali, maybe for the Jersey House of Cards. Yeah, you know, the guy who plays Remy. Yeah. So like, he's big. That. Yeah. He's dominant. He's low voiced. Yeah. He can be like, get scary. Like, he was great in Luke Cage. Yeah. As the first half.
But who says the Kurgan has to be white either?
Yeah,
like, he could be.
That's what I mean.
Also, another one would be the guy who plays the big guard in the Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah,
where they're making him like do the roof. No, that is Clancy Brown. It'd be perfect. I want that guy from the Shawshank Redemption. Or the guy from the Green Mile. What's his? David Morse, who plays Brutal. If he was to do it, like, he has that. Like that huge, but like, you know, you need somebody evil. I'm sure he could be very evil.
Yeah, he's great in there's the remake of the Hitchcock movie with the guy who's in Transformers, curly haired. He's gone a bit nuts now.
Ooh.
Making videos. Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah. He would not avoid us.
But he plays the villain in that, like, and he's chilling, like. So
yeah, he's in a load of movies coming up as well. There's some like crackers that he's in that he's a fucking crazy bastard, and some that he's like that wholesome, like Green Mile is like a wholesome character, but he's in like the Hurt Locker and he's like an evil colonel, and you're like, I could see him being maybe not in an action role, but the only mix is the Dolph Lundgren and Gary Oldman, the character of Gary Oldman and the body of Dolph Lundgren. You know, that's all that pervades my head. And then in the prequel, say, for Ramirez and Eddie Redmayne, Heather could be like Daryl Hannah, like, it could be any fucking blondie one from that time. But I think she was chosen as like a no one so that she wouldn't take away from that, also like budget or maybe or whatever.
Yeah.
Who would play Brenda Wyatt? Who would you have?
I don't know, because I really like her as like she plays it really well.
Strong woman.
I don't know, like who we got that just no nonsense, but still believable enough, like that it'd be soft.
Could you have an Emilia Clarke? Maybe
you could have an Emilia Clarke.
I didn't really like her playing the Sarah Connor in the new Terminator. She wasn't
I haven't seen it yet.
Like strong or whatever.
You could have who played Peg in Married with Children.
Oh yeah, yeah. She does the voice of Leela. Katie Sagal. Yeah, I
think she would have like, and at the time she was like
whopper.
Yeah,
she would have nailed it. Or what about if you're looking for like a strong woman? What about Robin Wright Penn, the wife from House of Cards? Like she was fucking. I'm a thing. But she's also that she is like sexy, or she has that. There's like a vulnerability to her as well. Or Betty Gilpin. Do you know the one she's in Glow right now? She's the blondie one with the big swingers in Glow, which is the female wrestling TV show on Netflix right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she could be really good as well. So who would you have for Conor McLeod? Who would you have? Who could you? I
don't know, because the voice and everything makes it like it's a unique one.
It's hard, man. It's fucking tough to like replace Conor McLeod. It's very difficult. Like it could be anybody really, but who has that thing of, you know, like
Ewan McGregor.
Oh my god!
If you wanted a Scotsman in the role, when he was younger,
absolutely.
And like if he had his Fargo chops at a younger age,
he already has his Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of swords masters kind of a way of going on. Ewan McGregor is a very good call. We're putting it out to you people. Who would we have as the alternative characters? We're looking for suggestions. White Press Play on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We might make a Twitter poll, or
Twitter poll.
Email us in, right? We'll have to find something to do, polls or something like that. I'm going to put something on the website, and we'll pick the best suggestions and put them up, and we'll have the people vote for it. But if you have anyone that can replace Christy Lambert as Conor McLeod, Ewan McGregor is probably the best suggestion I've heard. That's good.
Just for like,
now
I was thinking like, he's picking it as a Scots,
like picture anybody else. So if we were to give people one reason why you absolutely should watch a Highlander movie from 1986, a White Press Play would like to do one reason why. If somebody goes to you, why should I watch that? If you're trying to sell it to, you know, oh man, let's watch Highlander, they're like, no, it's all swords and all. You're like, listen, you have to watch it because
it's one of the best becoming a man stories set to a fucking awesome backdrop of music. Like, it's because essentially that's what it is. It's becoming a man from you know, the child running out first time in battle to learning all these things, not just what a regular guy has to go through, but an immortal after you lose your, you know, everything again and again and again, and just to keep going and do the best around, you know what I mean? Forever.
It's like an immortal Karate Kid. I do think the soundtrack is big time. If I was to say one reason why, if I was to make Claire watch this, which she wouldn't, but if I was like, it's a story of a man who consistently loses everything but still prevails, and some people only get one lifetime to do that, and he had 10 lifetimes and eventually made it. There is hope. You just have to, you know, stand on the shoulders of giants, or maybe not be so stubborn, listen to advice, do what you're told, let her go, brother. Do you know? Could have got 80 years of training in there, like while she was waiting for her to get old. Like, there's, you know, what was he doing in the meantime? Bopping around? Did he train himself? Like, did he, you know, that becoming a man thing, that Star Wars typical hero's journey, you know, that Joseph Campbell joint, like the writer's journey, the whole realizing your power, actualizing your power, utilizing your power, being stripped of everything and yet still prevail, and like absolutely. And the soundtrack is like without the soundtrack, I think this movie would just be another fucking swashbuckling, no one's in this film bullshit. Like Christopher Lambert, was he in like?
It was like this was his second English speaking movie.
Yeah,
like
The Cell, or what's it called?
He's in that Southland Tales movie.
Oh yeah, as well.
As an arms dealer.
He was in like a bunch of movies, a lot of them in French or whatever. But like Highlander, one of his early speaking parts, they gave him the part because he played Tarzan in a movie just before, and it was like, oh, he looks very physical, let's hire him. And then they hired him and the cunt couldn't speak English. But like going through the Highlander movies, then he was in Fortress. That's the one I was thinking of, the prison one where they're like, you're on a van and now you're in an inescapable prison, and he's like, I can get out of here. With his fucking Highlander laugh. He was also Raiden in Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
He was in Fortress 2. He was in a shit version of Beowulf. He was in like bit parts then all through the 2000s, like playing little like, oh, I'm an incidental character, I'm a driver, I'm somebody's father. Like you're like, alright dude. Not really in a whole lot, it would have been a nothing film. Like Clancy Brown only got up when he started doing and he's always a character actor, he's never like a leading man, so it's very like there's a lot of not leading men in this movie. Sean Connery is probably the biggest star, and that's probably one of the reasons why it got so much press at the time was because Sean Connery was fucking James Bond, but yeah, definitely. Like this is one of our longer shows, but it's like one of my favourite films of all time. Yeah,
I did have no qualms about rewatching this like again after the 100 million times.
Oh, absolutely. And it was all like Blood of Kings. It was all like fucking standing up on the couch like watching. Come on, fucking. Imagining you with a little orange sword. In front of the telly.
There could be only one.
Yeah, you and me trying to fucking chop the heads off each other in the garden because there could be only one. So that's it for White Press Play. Go watch Highlander if you've never seen it. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you? Go watch it. Don't watch the second or the third one though, because you will.
It'll retroactively ruin it for you.
Yes, it will. Wait for the reboot. Maybe watch the TV show. Watch a few of them. They are very kind of Xena warrior princess.
Yeah, this is the time that they were done.
But like with anything, let's remake it because we have the technology now. But just do a good job.
Yeah.
That's it for White Press Play. If you want to get in contact with us, info@whitepressplay.com is the email. We're on Facebook and all the social medias. Thanks very much for listening. If you want to chat about the movie or chat about any other movies or any of the other shows, head into Discord. Our Discord server is up on the Twitter or up on the website, and you'll be able to chat with other fans and stuff like that. And if you like the show and you want to support us, go and give us a star rating or a review on iTunes. They seem to like that stuff, and they put us to the top of lists and shit, so people can find us. We are not the only ones who have done a Highlander episode, but I think we can show up near the top of the line if we get a few reviews and stuff like that. Or if you want to monetarily support us and help us keep this train rolling, paying for website hosting and equipment and other kind of incremental costs that do rack up when you're running a show like this, you can go on to patreon.com/ypressplay. The link is in our social media as well, and donate like $2 it starts from. You get loads of stuff like behind the scenes footage, pictures of us in our jocks, and not really, and early access to different shows and this kind of stuff. It's a really good way of funding the art that you like, and there's loads of people on that now at the moment since the YouTube apocalypse, so go over and have a look at that. You could get some secret stuff from creators that you didn't even know were on there. Extra shit, man. We're also streaming on Twitch and YouTube and VidMe from PlayStation 4 and Steam when we're doing computer games, with the release of the SNES Mini, the new Genesis console, and the NES Mini as well. There's loads of retro games to be bought and played, and we're going to run through them all and have a little go. So we're doing like Streets of Rage 2, we're doing like Toki Goes Apespit, some of the cool spots maybe. We did one recently on Contra, which is quite difficult to finish. So yeah, that's it for White Press Play for this time. Subscribe on your podcast player and leave us a review on iTunes. I'd like to thank Neil for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
It was a wonderful jaunt and a skip down memory lane.
Oh, that's very nice.
There can be only one.
Happy Halloween, ladies.
Thanks for listening. Bye.